What you're about to see should really alarm you for reasons that we'll demonstrate fully a little bit later. All right, here we go. Here's CNN reporter Susan Rosgen providing the kind of unbiased, no-bull reporting that CNN prides itself on.
You know, what is this supposed to mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, he's a fascist. The pirates...
Wait, why do you say he's a fascist? He's the president of the United States.
He's a fascist.
Do you realize how offensive that is?
I think he's a fascist.
Okay, stop right there for a second. Look, my understanding was that reporters were supposed to report the news, not offer their opinions on it. But I will say this. It is appropriate to get upset about comparing the President of the United States to Adolf Hitler. To do so not only denigrates the president, a democratically elected official, to the level of one of history's greatest monsters, it also does something much, much worse. It trivializes the horror of what Adolf Hitler actually did, which is to brutally murder 6 million Jews in gas chambers and plunge the world into the second greatest disaster it has ever seen. 50 million or more people dead in World War II, second only, of course, to the 100 million plus killed by various communist regimes throughout the 20th century. So, while supposedly objective journalists shouldn't be offering their opinions on anything, if you're going to get upset about something, at least it should be something really offensive, like comparing the president to Adolf Hitler. Now, as it turns out, Susan had once before confronted this vile practice. Thanks to newsbusters.org, we can get her take on it in this voiceover report from 2006.
They and their teachers say more money is needed to fix the levees, and they hope the president would stop by after his meeting with business leaders. But while a lookalike showed up with a wad of cash, Mr. Bush did not.
Did you get that? Her quote was, "While a lookalike showed up with a wad of cash, Mr. Bush did not." So we have a giant papier-mâché head of George Bush with devil horns, a Hitler mustache, and a Hitler haircut, and that's a lookalike. But somebody says that President Obama is Hitler, and you get...
Why be so hard on the president of the United States, though, with such an offensive message?
So why the difference in the selective outrage? Well, one of these presidents she voted for personally, and the other one she personally despises. And that's what determines what gets on the air, and that's what determines what makes up the narrative, her personal belief system. Now watch as Susan Rosgen takes her professional, utterly unbiased, no-bull, just-the-facts attitude to another gentleman who is exercising the dissent that the left has told us this whole time is the highest form of patriotism.
Okay, let's see, you're here with your 2-year-old, and you're already in debt. Why are you here today, sir?
Because I hear a president say that he believed in what Lincoln stood for. Lincoln's primary thing was he believed that people had the right to liberty and they had the right...
Sir, what does this have to do with taxes? What does this have to do with your taxes? Do you realize that you're eligible for a $400 credit?
Finish my point.
Okay, I want to stop for a second. Did you hear her trying to sell this stimulus package to this poor, ignorant, non-network journalist Rube in the yellow shirt who dares worry about this generational theft? She's basically saying to him, you're getting $400 in exchange for this unprecedented banditry, you knuckle-dragging idiot. What more do you trailer park living right-wing extremists want?
Did you know that the state of Lincoln gets $50 billion out of these stimulus? That's $50 billion for the state, sir.
Ma'am, can you stop this, sir? Hold on.
Okay, well, Kira, we'll move on over here. I think you get the general tenor of this. It's anti-government, anti-CNN, since this is highly promoted by the right-wing conservative network, Fox. And since I can't really hear much more, and I think this is not really family viewing, toss it back to you, Kira.
Look, here at the studio, we watched this clip with our mouths hanging open. We'd always known that this bias exists. Somewhere between 85 to 95% of journalists describe themselves as liberal. We just don't often get to see it as clearly as this media bias, and it gets worse. Now, by happy chance, one of those angry, bitter, angry, rage-filled, angry average Americans who were at the Tea Party protest happened to have a video camera, and the guys at foundingbloggers.com picked it up. This tape starts just as CNN ended its coverage. Watch this.
What if someone said to you, well, your elected officials voted for this stimulus package?
They all need to be thrown out. They're all Congress. It's not just, this is not just Democrats. It's not Republicans. It's all of them. All of them. It's Congress. Bush voted for all this. Obama voted for all of it.
It doesn't really matter to you whether it's Republican or Democrat.
Absolutely not. And most people who are here do not believe that it's just the Republicans or just the Democrats.
And what group are you with that brought you out
Hey,
here?
you want to hear
I'm
the
a
truth?
suburban, self-employed woman. I don't have a group.
No, I mean, how did you find out about it then?
Oh, it's all over the news. It's everyone. We all do.
Like online,
Oh yeah, it's all over online. What do you think the internet is for? Are you trying to play stupid?
You really don't need to be so antagonistic.
Well, what do you say to that? There's just nothing left to say. And what's wrong with this picture? Well, CNN, here's a little thought for you. Your official bio of Susan Rosjan on the CNN website says she has a bachelor's degree in English from Montana State University. Now, Montana State is a fine school, but next time you guys decide to hire a journalist, you might want to give them one of those little one-page frequently asked question sheets that explain how traditionally you ask the background questions first, and then you do the reporting second. Okay, so look, where's the real harm in all this media bias? Why does it really matter? Well, during the 2004 election between George Bush and John Kerry, Newsweek magazine's Evan Thomas had this to say, quote, "Let's talk a little media bias here. They're going to portray Kerry and Edwards as being young and dynamic and optimistic, and there's going to be this glow about them, a collective glow, the two of them. That's going to be worth maybe 15 points. Now, that was in 2004. Now, even though Evan Thomas talked about Kerry and Edwards as being portrayed as having a glow about them, the media never really fully fell in love with John Kerry. They just gave him 15 points at the polls because they were the media. That's what good liberals do. It's the right thing to do. It's kind of a sense of duty on their part. But 4 years later, the real deal would emerge. Now, you want to talk about a candidate with a glow that they can really get behind. Well, now, 2004 was nothing compared to the water that the media carried lovingly and with wide-eyed adoration for the true Messiah, to which candidate Kerry, in retrospect, was merely a long-faced John the Baptist. I mean, if this guy was worth an additional 15 percentage points in the polls, then who can put a price on this? But let's just say that even with the Messiah, the media bias alone, forgetting the throbbing, constant drumbeat from Hollywood, late-night talk shows, the music industry, academia, all the rest, let's just say that Obama has the same benefit of liberal bias that Evan Thomas, in an unguarded moment, was ready to credit to John Kerry. Well, if you take a look at the 2008 electoral map and you remove 15 points of media bias from Barack Obama, you will get this result. Obama carries Vermont with 3 electoral votes and D.C. with 3 electoral votes, and, well, that's all he carries. That's all he gets. Because in no other state was Obama's margin of victory greater than the 15 points of media bias that the press themselves admit that they were willing to give him. And if you take that press bias away, John McCain wins by a score of 532 to 6. Ladies and gentlemen, we not only have an aristocratic imperial Congress for life that no longer represents the will of the American people, we also have in place of the unbiased, dispassionate watchdogs that they claim to be, a wildly partisan and utterly unethical press corps who decides over cocktails who should win elections and who should lose them, and then prepares the appropriate narrative which they sell to you as unbiased news. But the current product of CNN, Newsweek, and all the rest are as far from actual news reporting as our current Congress and federal government are from the ideals that the founders had in mind at the very birth of this great nation.